Okay, so the animation is completed. A little bit of camera animation is left. Let's do that and then we'll get down to rendering. Okay. So before I start the animation in this view, I will expand this floor and I will put some objects here so that we have something in the background. Okay. Like if I see it from this angle, you can see it's empty, right? So I want to add some things there. I'll do it while opening two views so that things are better. I can see them properly. Okay, so because the floor and all of these objects are inside a layer and it is referenced, I cannot select them. So I will remove the reference. I can select them now. I will make the floor white. Okay, so you can see more of the floor is covering that area. I will duplicate this object and I will start placing it, keeping it at a height. Now you can place whatever you want. I just want some things to be there so that the scene looks better. Okay. It has some depth. So just putting some random objects. I always try to keep it at an angle so that it looks like it's proper 3D and doesn't look like a plane. Okay, we're almost there. Just one more. Yeah, that's it. Okay, I think the scene looks better now because there are more objects. Okay, all right, now we can continue. Okay, so now we have some things in the background. Now let's get to the camera. I'll make the camera visible in this viewport. So here we have it. Let's lock this layer again. So I've referenced it again. I will unlock the camera. So as I said, I want to add that handheld type of animation. You can also just zoom out or do things like that. Like when you start, it is zoomed in and then you slowly zoom out. That also works. But I want to add that handheld type of effect. It's very easy to do. We'll do it in the camera view itself and see how camera here gets changed. I mean, you'll get to see the position of the camera. So we have entered the scene. I'll go forward. See, you should always put a key in a handheld type of effect after 10 frames at least. Okay. So you can see I am basically when I'm trying to move this like this, I'm panning the camera, right? So I'm pressing Alt middle mouse button and I'm panning it like this. I moved it to the left direction and upwards. Then next pan I will do uh, towards the right direction and maybe downwards. And then again I will go downwards straight this time. And if I hit play, you can see, look at this. So we have some movement. Now it's a little, I think the last one is a little excessive. I'll delete that one. But if you see the first, you can see how it is moving. Okay. You can of course change the intensity of it as you want, but this is how we do it. We just shift it up and down. Okay. So you just make it go in opposite directions, make it go up and down, left and right, just trying to move it very little, but at times it gets more than we want. So let's see how it looks. Look at this. We got that handheld camera effect. It looks like someone is holding the camera and recording this. It looks very good in render, especially because they start to look realistic. Okay, you will see oftentimes when people create environments and stuff like this, they will always add this type of camera animation. So you just have to pan the camera left and right, up and down to get that effect. Okay. So yeah, that is done till here. Now in this camera angle, one second. Here, like you don't have to necessarily move the camera too much, but you can see this full frame is between 189 to 217. So you can go in between and just, slightly pan the camera again by holding Alt and middle mouse button. Just slightly move it down, and when you hit play, you can see just slightly it's moving up and down. Okay. And then here I said that we will be adding a boink type of effect. Like we wiggle the camera because the ball is jumping, like basically it's landing, right? So jump kind of a thing is happening. So we can add a camera shake or a wiggle. So let's do that. So obviously that wiggle should happen right after the impact. I mean, it shouldn't be before that. So just after the impact frame here, or on the impact frame itself, I will move the camera down like this. So you can see it goes down and then it should go back up. The wiggle happens because of the instant dampening. So you can see very soft wiggle I've added. What did I do? Let me do this again. See, the ball is coming down, right? It hits at 22. So I move the camera down. So it looks like the camera is also falling down. Now you can make it more vigorous by moving it down further like this. So it goes down and then it should go back up and then it should come down again. You can see the intensity reduced in the third one. Here I moved it down so much. Here I moved it up a little less. And here when I moved it down again, it was even more less. So you can see this type of wiggle. I didn't add very excessive wiggle because this is just a simple jump, right? And the ball is obviously lighter in weight. Now, if it was, let's say, a human character jumping, we would add even more excessive wiggle. But here we don't have to. This type of wiggle effect works. Okay. I have just done up and down. When we're working with human characters, we also tilted left and right to make it more chaotic. Okay. So is this clear, the wiggle effect and what I did here with the handheld effect? I did same thing that I showed earlier. Hope that is clear. Okay, all right. Okay, so now that we're done with the basic animation for the camera, I will lock it again. Now let's get down to something better, which is obviously rendering it so that we can see the final product. So we'll keep it very simple. Okay. So first of all, uh, we should always place a light in the scene. Okay, so I will go to V-Ray, go to lights, and I'll click on V-Ray rectangle light. I will use this one. You can see if you raise it up, this is how it looks. You just have to rotate it down and you need to scale it up. If you want to use Arnold, you can use Arnold as well. You can see in this viewport, it's not visible. So if I click on lights and locators, you can see it becomes visible. Okay. So I'm just making it quite wide and I will turn on the render in the viewport. Okay. Like if I click on this little V option here, it will start rendering. You can see it looks horrible right now, but that's okay. I'll just raise it up and we see this white color. We can make the light invisible and it will still affect the scene. So if I go to attribute editor, I can go down in the option settings and I can click on invisible. So the light is no longer visible. Everything else looks so bad, not a problem. Uh, it's looking bad because we don't have proper materials. We don't have V-Ray materials here and we haven't controlled the materials in any way. So that's another reason why it looks bad. Okay, so we'll adjust all of that. Let me keep it higher and I will also reduce the intensity of the light. So it's a little bit less intense now. Okay, now this is the camera view. You don't have to necessarily work in the camera view when you're adjusting the materials. So I'll go to this and I will go to the perspective view and I will zoom into the ball. Let's change the ball's material first. You can see it looks pretty bad. That's because we are using the default material that we have on this ball. So if I click on it, I need to access the materials that are already here. So if you go to the attribute editor, this little triangle that is here, right click on it, you will get to see the materials. So You can see if you click on one of them, you can see basically there are two materials. Okay, so obviously one for orange, one for black. You can change. So I'll go to the orange first. This is Fong. This is the default, one of the default Maya's material. We don't want this. We want V-Ray material to be here. So I'll go to the type and I'll type V. So when you type V, you get to see all the V-Ray materials. So I'll click on normal V-Ray material and I will turn on render. And right now intensity of the light is still a little too much. Let me adjust it. I'll select the light again and I will lower the intensity. Now it's better. Okay, I'll go back to the attribute editor, select our ball and go to our material. I'll name it as orange so that it's easy to understand. You can see it is looking very flat. There's no reflection to it, right? Each and every object that exists in reality always has some sort of reflection. It could be less, it could be more, but there is some sort of reflection. Here, this is completely flat. No light is actually reflecting. I mean, obviously we can see the color, but there's no reflective property on this orange color. So what we'll do, we'll go to the reflection color here and we'll turn it to white. Now that has increased the reflection completely. So now it is reflecting it fully. We don't want that. We want it to be matte. So what I'll do, I will adjust the glossiness of it. Also, I will change the color. This is way too, like, obviously basketballs are usually this colored, right? This is the type of color we have in basketball. So I'm going to keep it like that. And accidentally this amount was quite less. See, even though I have raised up the reflection, we don't see any reflection here. That's because maybe accidentally I clicked it down, the amount of reflection. So if we raise it up and if we adjust the glossiness, we get to see the matte effect. Look at this. If it is proper reflective, it looks like this. But we don't want that to be the case. It should be a little bit matte, like this. You can see light reflection is showing up on the surface. Whereas if you turn it down, it looks horrible. But and if you turn it completely up, it looks like some sort of glassy material, like it looks way too reflective. We want it to look like rubber, so it should be slightly reflective like this. We'll do the same thing with the black color. I'll go there and I'll change it to V-Ray material, turn it to black. I mean, change the name. Again, I'm raising the reflection color, but amount for some reason is very low. So I'll increase that. You can see as soon as I increased it, we can see this reflection. I definitely want it to be matte. So now you can see the ball looks better. Okay. Now let's talk about the floor. You can see the floor is obviously not even visible. Let's select that. I'll turn on the render again. We'll go to the settings here. You can see this is an Arnold shader, so it looks very weird. I'll go to V-Ray and I will put a V-Ray material. Automatically it starts to look better, but I don't want a white surface. I want a dark surface, so I'll keep it dark. I'll raise up the reflection. If you want, you can keep it reflective. You can lower the glossiness a little bit so it looks slightly matte. Okay, so that works. And you can see from this angle it looks white. That's because we have all these white buildings and the white light. So and we have made it highly reflective. So from this angle, it looks like the surface is white. If you don't want that, you can definitely go ahead and select these buildings and change the colors for them as well. Okay. No, it is not inbuilt. I said yesterday also, like if you want V-Ray, you can text me. I will send it. It's a third-party render engine. Okay. So now we have these buildings. You can change the colors for that as well. So I have a few of them selected. I will right click, go to assign new material, go to V-Ray and go to V-Ray material. And now we can change the color of those buildings. So you can make it completely black if you want. And buildings are not supposed to be very reflective. It should be very, very matte. Don't make it completely matte. It should still reflect light. So I'm keeping some glossiness into this. Sure, Sudhakar, text me after class, I'll send it. Okay. So that works. And then we have, okay, let's select these. I will again assign a new material and then let's see, let's make it a grayish, bluish kind of a thing. And again, raising the reflectivity and reducing the glossiness. So you can see it looks like this. We can also add materials to this. Let me select that. Okay, so this board, it should be white in color. So I will apply a material. You can see I'm selecting faces because I have created full uh, one full object out of this. So I will select the faces. I'll go to assign new material. I'll go to V-Ray and apply, and I will raise the intensity of the color, and let's turn on render and we can increase the reflection. And usually these are very reflective because they have some paint on it, so I won't lower the reflectivity of it. Now I will select the hoop and the stand. I want them to be black. So I will assign a material, video material, and I will make them black or whatever color you want. If you want to keep it silver, let's say, uh, let's do one thing. I will first make this pole black. Okay, so now it's like reflective and all. Now for the hoop, let's make it into a silver type of material. Okay, I have the hoop selected. I will first drop a material here. Okay, and it's very easy to do. You have it selected, you come down here and you increase metalless, and that's it. If you want it to be a brighter metal, you can increase the white color into this, and now you have this. Okay, and that's it. You can then lower the glossiness also if you want a little bit of a matte effect. And now you can see it looks like this. You can see it doesn't look very smooth, right? Uh, Now, because I had combined it all into one single object, what I'll do is I will, like, you guys don't have to do this, you can render it as it is. But let's say if you want to make it look better and you know a little bit of modeling, just go to the modeling menu, separate the shapes, and then I will actually smooth this out. You can see I can press 3 and it is smooth. Now here, I want the edges to be like right now, the edges are way too sharp. It looks kind of unreal. Okay. So I want them to be slightly beveled. So I'm beveling it. Okay. And I'll add some support edges to this because if I press 3 right now, it is like this. So just adding support after beveling. And now you can see we have a better look. All right. Okay, so I have smoothed this out. Let me delete the construction history in this. I'm just showing this. You guys don't have to do this. Okay, and I am deleting the construction history. Okay, 1 second. All right, everything is smooth, and I'm not going to do anything for the back part. All right. Let me turn on the render again. You can see this is how it looks. Okay, you can see I had smoothed it out, but it doesn't look smooth here. The reason is in V-Ray by default, when you like press 3 on the viewport, it doesn't automatically show smooth preview in your renders. What you have to do is you have to go to render settings and change it to V-Ray and go to overrides and click on viewport subdivision and close it. And now when I render it, you can see it is looking smooth. Okay. So you can see it looks a lot better now. So this is my scene. So you can see I'm keeping it very simple. Even though we used so many materials, we are using just one light. Okay. Just to keep, you need to know Maya. All right. So we're back at it. You can see this is how the render looks. No, it doesn't crashes often. It doesn't. Sometimes it crashes when some things go wrong. See, it's a software. Of course, it will crash sometimes. If you have a low-end system, it will crash often. If you have a good system, it won't crash. Okay. So that's the thing. And of course, if you're using, like, if your scene is having too much of polygons, you're using like very, of course, like if your scene is full of millions of polygons and thousands of polygons, it can crash. It's all about optimizing the scene. There are many ways of optimizing, and then it wouldn't crash. And for normal things also, it wouldn't crash. Okay. All right. So you can see this is how it is. This is how all the angles look. Okay, very simple. We haven't done too much. That's it. You can render it like you can set it up like this. Now, when you want to do a sequence render, go to the render settings, make sure to set V-Ray or whatever render engine you're using. If you're using Arnold, you don't have to change it. But if you're using V-Ray, set it to V-Ray. Okay. And to keep things simple, like usually in studios, we render in EXR because it has all the color values. Like basically, whenever we render something, it's not the final version. Post production happens on it, color correction is done on it. So with EXR, we have a lot of color data. Okay. So the EXR is an image format. Okay. So to keep things simple for everyone so that it works in whatever software you're using, just render in JPEG. Or you can use PNG also, or just render it in JPEG. It will be fine. Okay. And don't like we I no, so it's not a problem. I won't be showing motion blur in this, so it will be fine. If you're not using motion blur, you can render it without having any issues. Okay. So you can just render it like that. Zami, I don't know what your exact full name is. Is it Zami only? Not sure. See, in studios, mostly EXR is used because it is very uncompressed. It has all the color data that is required, and then we can also control it further by changing the image format. So in all studios, they use EXR only. Targa and TIFF is basically used sometimes for texturing, but for rendering, it's always EXR. Okay. Yes, Shiv, we will see your file. Don't worry. Just remind me once we end this. Okay. Everyone, you can just render in JPEG as it's easier for everyone. Okay. Like during the course, I show how to render an EXR, and because EXR is very uncompressed, so it looks very raw and weird when you view it normally. So you have to actually see it inside After Effects, and you need to have ACES uh, workflow installed in it. So it's like very complex. So that is something we cover later on. To keep things simple, just use JPEG. Okay. And make sure to delete any other cameras. This is my main camera. I'll delete the other one. I'll go here in the resolution and I'll just use 1080. No need to go higher than this. Then you go to animation and you go to standard. Okay, and then you need to set how many frames, from which frame to which frame you want the render to be. So we're starting from 0 and we're ending at 233. So I'll set that. So our front, like our com settings are set. Then we'll go to V-Ray. See, by default, we have progressive rendering. Like when we render it in viewport, you can see slowly the noise gets cleared. This is basically progressive rendering. So, like the more time you give into this, the more clear your renders will be. But as I said, it affects the time. So obviously not everyone has that much of time on their hands. So we use bucket mode. Okay. Here we can control the subdivisions, and like we can give it a minimum time. Basically, when you like control the subdivisions, time automatically gets affected, and you can control the levels through it. Like maximum subdivision is by default set to 24. This is not required at all. This high of a subdivision is used when you're rendering hair or particle effects, where you need to show uh, very, very small details. Okay. So we don't need to go so high for geometrical renders like this. This is normal geometry render. So we don't need to go this high. I always, whenever I'm rendering anything, I always first try with putting four subdivisions, and then I see how the render is coming out. Okay. And then according to that, I change things. So right now I've set it to four. Okay. And yeah, let's see how it is rendering. So after you're done with this, close this, and we have all these options here. This I one, don't go on that, go into the second one. So you will see how it is rendering. See, in bucket mode, we get these little squares where basically the square is created, and in that part it gets smoothed out. The noise gets removed. So it's just a faster process, but you can see we're getting noise, right? So 4 is actually too low for this. But if I increase the subdivision level, it will be slow. Good thing is, because we're rendering normal geometry, what we can do here is we can turn on something known as denoiser. So if I go to the render settings, I can go to render elements and I can click on denoiser. Okay, click on that, click on add. So it gets added here. It's basically a render pass. Okay, and I'll go down here, click on separate folders. Make sure you click on that so that whatever passes you create, they all come into a separate folder. So you just need to click on denoiser, that's it. So that is all set. I'll close this. Now I'll go to file. I will go to project window. Okay. We need to specify where we want to save the renders. Okay. So you go to images option, click on the folder, and you create a folder wherever you want it to be. So this is my folder. I'll click on that and I'll select it. So this is where my renders will be saved. I'll accept that. I'll go back to I'll close this render view and I'll open it again. So it will start rendering and you will see how it will smooth out. You can see right now it is noisy, right? We can see a lot of noise, but just wait. Yes, Lokesh, you can render hair in Maya. No, Soham, you're completely wrong. For simulations, of course, Maya is bad. But for hair, XGen is what is used in the industry. Okay. So because XGen has the best tools for grooming. So that's what people use in the industry. Houdini is for simulations. Okay. The grooming is done inside Maya, and then from there we can take the hair strands and we can simulate it in Houdini and so on. By the way, notice this. This is blurry right now, noisy, and let the render complete, then you'll see a smooth version. See, it got smooth, right? Now, because I'm rendering the sequence, it is getting smooth. Let me show you the render that we're creating. So the one that we need is the denoiser folder. So if I open that, let me double click on it. See, see how smooth it is, right? If I show you the actual render, it is so bad. See how noisy it is. So whenever you're doing any, uh, you know, geometry based render where you don't have those fine details, you can always use denoiser. Okay. Now, denoiser is something we don't use for hair because it smooths out all the details. So that's why when we're rendering hair, we increase the subdivision levels so we don't get inherent noise into it, and therefore we don't have to use denoiser, because denoiser only works well with normal geometries. If you have anything which has lots of, particle type of details, it will ruin the render. Okay. Of course, for leaves also you can use denoiser unless you're doing a close up. If you're doing a close up, then you have lots of details into it. It could get bad. It depends. You can always try and check it out whether it's working or not. Okay. Thank you, Saidul. Shan, as Saidul said, you can check my work in the first introduction class. Okay. Uh, all right. So yeah, you can see it is rendering. Every one of you can render it. Okay. This is 2022 version OpenRaj. It's quite stable, so I haven't changed it, but yes, I will be changing this version soon. But overall, it's very stable, so I don't really quickly change things. I will be changing it basically because later on, because there are lots of new modeling tools. So when we'll start modeling classes, we will be starting with 2024 version. But for the rest of the things, 22 works fine for me, so I use it. Okay. Zami, for modeling, I have to because of the new tools. So those have to be covered. Okay. I can use 25 also. I thought you said to use lower versions only. Okay. All right, guys, let's keep it till here. Uh, I will look forward to seeing everyone's render. Okay. Yes, 22 is very stable. That's why I haven't shifted from this yet. Yes, yes, Shiv, don't worry. I haven't forgotten it. I will stop the recording and then we'll see your file. Okay? We don't want the recording to be very long. That's why. Yeah, till now only Shiv has completed the full animation. No one else has completed it. Everyone has shown me half versions of it. No one has yet completed it, but Shiv has fully completed the animation. Okay, I'll stop the render. By the way, guys, when you're rendering it, and if you want to do the full 200 frames render, set it at night. We never render things during the day because when you're rendering, you cannot use your PC. Okay. So just do it at night. Uh, all right. Let me stop the recording.